be actually at Mattawa, at Covenant Park this year.
Oh,
But guess
yeah.
where we're gonna be next year, the following year?
Right here.
Yep,
Camp
Yep.
Gym.
very cool.
Well,
We're on-
so
Because
how?
we're
go
getting to where this year we'll have 55 teams,
Okay.
Mhm.
next year. And the thing is, we have developed, our fellow that's coming in as our director for the Twin Cities
Mhm.
has come up through the ranks since he was 12.
Okay,
Mhm.
so he
Went to
knows it from the
club and went
trenches.
Through the trenches,
Yep.
he's worked and worked and worked, he finished Moody, and now he's there getting his last training, comes into the Twin Cities as coordinator. But
Mhm.
training leaders,
Yeah.
and then they go, even if they go into, we've got them there in business and everything else,
Mhm.
they still know how to lead someone to Christ. They
Yeah,
know how to teach, and they're involved in their churches.
Mhm.
when we were in the church, we really felt like, a lot of times people say, well, you have to be 18 before you have any ministries in the church. By then it's too late, you've missed them.
We
And,
start them as juniors,
yeah,
junior missionaries when they're 12,
okay,
if they're 12 mature.
Yeah.
But then for the full training, 14.
yeah. And actually, that's really good prime time for them because A, they're still eager learners at that time, but they're mature enough to understand.
And they're
The
put with an
concepts.
older team, so
Yeah.
you give them a part, but they start to work their way up.
Mhm. Yeah,
How many of you have been to camp as kids? Okay, so everyone here.
except
How
him.
Yeah. So how many of you actually had opportunity to serve at camp? Like actually spend some time
As a
working
teen or
at
later?
teen or later, either one.
Mhm.
Okay, how many of you it was when you were kids? How many as adults? Okay,
But I didn't work at,
But you're not there.
but just helping out.
yeah, helping out.
As a senior,
Yeah.
right,
As you see.
but helping with the work projects.
Okay, so building into the leaders, having opportunity to serve together with people, and that's when you're taking that extended length of time. A lot when developing leaders, like you said, like Sunday school, you're only spending such a short time, but in the church, it's living life together and knowing what's going on and serving together, going out and doing something.
You don't get to know people for
Yeah.
that
Right, so.
time that you shake their hand on the way out the door.
Yeah, so opportunities at camp, like a work project or
Yeah.
something, you're actually taking your people, going together, serving. I think it was, in Philippians where it talks about having the attitude of Christ, what is it? He came to serve, not to be served. You know, so when you talk about building leaders,
Yeah.
having opportunity to serve
Yeah.
together, and then I think he's got some things in there. What are some of those opportunities?
Well, even like with this, just staying with the theme here, let's imagine a kid does start at age 12 getting some training, and at 14 they're doing more and they're growing up. And do you think when that person is now 26 years old and the Sunday school superintendent at church says, we'd like you to teach a 5th grade class, that person is going to prepare for 7 minutes coming into class? Not a chance. Not a chance. And on that rare occasion, when they do have to jump in with little notice and do something, they're already prepared.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
more likely to invest time
Yeah.
into the kids.
So some of the ways that leadership development can happen in camp is, again, some of the service projects and things like that. We will sometimes let kids that help with a service project, I have even let them write their name on the bottom of a little bench they were building and things like that, so that 10 years from now, when they're adults and they've got their own kids and they're bringing their kids to church, they can flip that bench over and say, see that name right there? We don't encourage graffiti on the beds, but the kids will have a sense of ownership because they've been involved.
We have teen groups
Yeah.
that is their purpose in coming
Yep.
to camp, is to have a work day at camp.
Yep. We have one group that has come every year with their junior high youth group, and they come and they build stuff. They have built bog walks, they've framed up cabins.
Is that
Yours
Yours-
usually does grounds work,
grounds?
landscaping kinds of projects. They are world-class wood stackers. Nobody ricks wood like they do. It's Chisholm Baptist. They'll come and they've done some pretty crazy stuff. 3 of our 4 bog walks were built by them. So but then as they get older, when they're teenagers, we encourage them to be teen volunteers, where they come in and they are extra eyes and ears, they're extra hands, and they help us with the younger weeks of camp. My goal is for them to develop into being summer staffers as college students. And a lot of people, after they've spent their summer in college or in a staff position, they discover that God really can do some pretty cool things through me. And some of them may consider going into some form of ministry. We have one guy who was at Oak Hills College who came on and staffed with me. Not really college material. He struggled with college, but he came and staffed with me. And now this year he interned, and he really would like to make camp a career. God can really work through those kind of opportunities to get a hold of them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The first one says about high risk.
Yeah.
The camp counselors that you have,
Yeah.
I guess what's kind of in my mind here is a child that comes and maybe is thinking about suicide,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
is there, do the counselors have any kind of instruction that helps them to flag, or, be able to pick that up?
Let me speak to that.
Yeah.
Or-
A week ago last night, one of the kids that comes to our camp every year attempted suicide. And we're not sure yet at this point whether he was going to be successful or not. But my staff, in working with them before, have come to us and have talked to us and said they were concerned about this. And we've been able to communicate with the parents. We haven't been directly in a situation where we've been able to be the intervention. And that does take a pretty fair amount of preparation to really be ready for that. But we do make them aware of what to look for, what gets reported, how to know, is somebody just flapping his gums, or is he actually giving consideration to it? And we do take all threats seriously. We do report them to parents. In this case, the parents were aware that their son, had issues like
The
that.
biggest thing is
Yeah.
teaching the counselors, go through training, like we just had a cyber safety training just last hour.
Yeah, I was over at that one.
Yeah, so seeing, those are the types of things that I'm sure all the three camps represented here, I know others, are gonna bring in those types of things, because we're not gonna reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Bring in people, there's online stuff, I know you were gonna pipe in on.
Yeah, just 2 summers ago, we had a student that while she was at camp, she confided in her counselor that she had been very depressed and was considering suicide. She talked about how she was gonna do it. She said, I'm going to do it while I'm here at camp if I get the opportunity, and things like that. And the counselor then came to me, and we went on and got them in contact with support services, and they went into a 36-hour mandatory observation and things like that. Like you said, we don't reinvent the wheel. We're not there to be suicide counselors.
Yeah.
But we have, there's Stephanie who's here, she's out there with suicide awareness. I have her contact information on speed dial. If I ever have somebody that comes like that, I give her a call. I said, okay, who can you get here? Because I've got somebody that needs it right now.
And why did those types of things become evident at camp? It's because you're spending time.
Yeah.
And that's where even, and so I think, one of the benefits for camps with churches is bringing your youth or whatever, and then bringing your adults, helping them to start to see how, the effectiveness that God has when you spend time. And I think it doesn't have to be camp. It can be taking your kids and going to just spending time together for a week. Go to a water park. I don't care what it is. You can go do something, and you will see that God uses that. It's nothing magical about camp.
It's time.
It's the,
Time away from
it's
the
the
norm.
time.
One of the other things that happens is a lot of times when somebody commits suicide or does other types of destructive behavior, you find out that they've been talking about it on Facebook. And they, and their friends have gotten used to hearing about it, and it's like, oh, they blow it off. Well, we've taken Facebook away from them for a week.
I was gonna say,
They-
that's a blessing.
It is.
That's why I held my
They
cell
don't-
phone up in
Unplugged.
the beginning.
They don't get
I was
their
like,
tech while they're
whoa.
there, and yet they still have that desire to share, so they start talking.
Yeah.
And it isn't just
Yeah.
high-risk kids
Yeah.
that,
It's
that's
adults.
totally.
Right.
I was at a camp
Yep.
and I was counselor. I actually worked in as a nurse's aide and
Mhm.
somebody came in and took some pills.
Mhm.
And it was not fun.
Mhm.
And again, we're not prepared to be the intervention specialists, and we're certainly not trained to help them work through the issue and come out successfully on the other side as a new healed and whole person. But we try to make sure that our staff understand two things. One is that we're not adequate and we need to make sure that resources come to bear. And two is that God is adequate and He is the solution. But God has given us a brain, and part of the way God works is by encouraging us to use our brains to make good decisions and come up with good ways to handle and help those people. So we need to do all of those things. Let's say just a little bit more here. Being a camp staffer can be a great resume builder. Besides the ministry that you're doing, it's great when you're looking for a job and you can say, hey, I spent 10 weeks where I was in full charge of groups of kids. That looks pretty good to a potential employer, and a lot of them can discover a calling to ministry. One of the things we may not think about too often, but it's a great time for pastors to connect with kids from their churches. When I was a kid, every pastor, I was Christian Missionary Alliance, and every Alliance pastor had to spend at least 1 week at camp. We were the pastors were the counselors. It isn't done that way anymore, and it's very easy for pastors to lose touch with the kids. So it's a good opportunity for them to connect up. And then I just want to hit one more thing, and then we can go back to discussing some of these again. And that is, we're out in nature. All of us are in nature in our camps. We don't have any urban inner city camp that we're doing. You can do a day camp program in the inner city. It's a great thing to do. But that's not what we do. We get kids out in nature, and it gives us some good opportunities to talk about God as the Creator, to show these kids that there is reasonableness to what the Bible says about origins, and we can do like Jesus did, and do parables. And I have a couple of skunks in my nature center. Their names are Scratch and Sniff, and they're my two little buddies. But I have kids, every time they smell a skunk now, they think of John 3:16, because we created a parable around the skunks about the man who loves his dog, and his dog has fellowship with him and is with him in the house, and he sits under the table and he sleeps on his bed and they're together all the time. Then that dog went out in the yard and tangled with a skunk and got all smelly. And so what does the man do? He hates the dog now and wants nothing to do with it. No, not at all. He still loves that dog. Maybe even has more pity for him than he had before. So he has his son go outside and deal with the dog. So I tell the whole story in a much more drawn out way than that. But and then we come to the verse of John 3:16, and so I tell the kids, every time you smell a skunk, you think of John 3:16, and little by little they're getting it. Well, there's a lot of lessons. There's entire books of ways to do parables from nature. So our environment out away from town can be helpful in that regard. I'm going to, I'll raise something for discussion that I don't know which side of the issue I'm on. Some would say that when you have a group of kids that you are working with that you know are high risk, that the things that will work for them and the way they have to be handled may be very different than a lot of other kids. And they would advocate doing separate programs. I think if you have a low staff to student ratio it's maybe not too bad to do them together. But I do think there's a place where perhaps you could have a week of camp or a couple weeks of camp that specifically are for people to bring in kids that they know are at-risk kids. You might need a little different group of leadership for that.
When you talk about safe haven,
Yeah.
The staff that go through our trainings,
Mhm.
we know what like sexual predators, like, you know, the whole grooming process. We actually talk to our staff, and how you're familiar with grooming process. Okay, all right, so all right, just want to make sure. We teach our staff about that, and the biggest difference they look a lot alike, a groomer and a camp counselor. They will look a lot alike, except when you get to the point to where, are you going to have the kids be inclusive, or you're going to be exclusive? Because that's where the groomer ends up pulling the kid away, whereas we teach our staff, and that's what we as directors and everything we watch, is are we including the kids in everything? And I mean, and then there's great parallels of, you know, helping these kids realize that their life needs to be in Christ and not exclusive off by yourself. You know, so safe havens, we may not know a lot about, you know, all the, you know, how to counsel and stuff, but guess what? They get to see the love of Christ happen in their cabin, in the community that they're with for the week. So I'm gonna encourage, you know, the leader. You obviously are here for a reason, is helping people in your churches have opportunities at camps to be able to volunteer, because then they get to see God work and the effectiveness of that. And then that's where you'll be developing your leaders. You're going to end up not only creating safe havens at camp, but then now coming back home. You know, that's the problem we find, is like all these kids come and get this great experience, and now they go out and go back home, and now they're back in the same thing. So getting adults as well understanding what this concept of community is, that's the church, you know.
That kind of ties into the follow-up part.
Right.
I know for us, one of the things that we do is we try and I'm sure you guys are doing this too, but track what contacts are at the home, if they are going to churches and things like that. And then we do call the churches and say, hey, this kid came to camp, these are decisions they made. Do you have groups that they can be involved in that can help them with continuing to do discipleship and things like that? So it's not just they come, they make a decision, and we leave them high and dry. It's, we can't be there because we are not the church, but we want to connect them back with the body of believers that can continue to grow them and develop them. And then, as Dan was saying, when they come back, hopefully the next year, we can make sure to help them do any course corrections, and we can give them a little bit more of that battery charge to help them get through to the next time we get to interact with them.
Where it can get a little challenging is when the kids come from, say, their family's church is one that we know doesn't believe the Bible, isn't really going to teach things of God in that respect. And sometimes out of respect for the family, the best you can do is provide them with materials. So like we subscribe to Keys for Kids for the kids, and they'll receive them at home 4 times a year. We're doing that this year. We've done it in the past at times, but we're coming back to it this year. Because even if mom or dad says, well, we're going to go back to our Lutheran church or whatever, and some Lutheran churches do preach the gospel, but not all do, they're going to have some good influence in that regard there. Yeah.
And we also use the mailbox club through CEF in a similar way.
Right.
So.
One last, we only have like not even a minute left, actually probably overtime. Meeting places that are hard to find. I know I think all 3 of the camps that are represented here, and I know most of them, can accommodate small groups from like 12 up through larger groups. Some camps larger, some camp, you know, some 100, some 200, some 400.
How many can you do year-round? Warm beds?
Right now, year-round, 0.
Okay.
But you're moving toward it.
Yeah, we're moving toward it.
Year-round like for 250 is what we can do,
Okay.
getting right to
And we
200
can,
now.
and we can do,
60 right
we can
now.
do 64 right now, 84 in a few months.
Mhm.
So we're adding another 10
Um,
warm beds, I call them.
And also, the other thing is that a lot of people, if you think about leaders, like your
Mhm.
pastors, anybody in full-time ministry, how, we were talking about burnout.
Mhm.
What's one of the ways that you can avoid that burnout is by taking time away.
Yeah.
We all offer, for
Mhm.
anybody in full-time ministry, I believe you do,
Yeah.
to be able to come out free of charge, sometimes donations if one, but there is absolutely no charge to come out and
Yeah.
get that refreshment time. And so that's a way that we can come alongside churches or any other full-time ministry to be that
Yeah.
for them.
And that's important for us as church members to watch,
Yeah.
to be aware with your pastors and your
Mhm.
staff,
Mhm.
if they're starting to
Encourage.
burn out, and do that, because we've done it with some of our CEF directors.
Yeah.
When we've talked to spouses and just said, we need so-and-so to be able to get away for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And
And
we
provide
would
a
love
spot,
to be a
just
part
to
of that.
send them with their Bible and some food.
Yeah.
If you
Yep.
just sleep, that's fine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but your phone does not go with you,
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
computer does not go with
Yeah.
you,
It's not work,
it's not work, it's
Mhm.
just time,
refreshment.
refreshment time, and it's needed.
Yeah.
Well, I
Let's
think
close in
the
prayer.
next
Yeah.
one starts soon, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's close in prayer. Lord, thank you just for the opportunity to come together and talk some about the value of camp. And we pray that as we go our separate ways now and continue to learn in other workshops, that you will just encourage us to always be pouring into those that you bring into our lives.
Mhm.
In your name, amen.
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 Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
And if you